Hi guys, and welcome to the start of my Dyson Sphere Program playthrough. So I've just pumped a few hours into this game, so I've got a little bit of an understanding of how things work. Still don't have a massive understanding, but I have also viewed other people's content on YouTube as well to try and pick up some hints and tips along the way. But I've started a fresh world, and we're going to go into it, and we're going to have a look at a few things to see how we get on and get ourselves started. First things first, I'm going to pull up kind of like the world map, if you like, and what we're looking for here is we're trying to find copper and iron ore vines that are pretty close together and that have a bit of a building space around it. On our right hand side of the screen you've got all the planet information. You can see that we've got 57% construction space, which, well, that's not amazing because it means there's not an awful lot of landmass as such. And by the looks of it, my landmass is kind of very islandy. So I do have to try and find some veins that are quite close together. The closer they are together, the better it is going to be. And I am looking for a fairly big clump of land that I'm going to be able to build quite a few structures on in early game just to get me started. Now what I say we're looking for here is we're looking for iron and copper. Copper is this kind of brown coloured node here, and then the iron is there's a blue coloured node here. So we're looking to try and find a couple of these that are real close together. Now early game you do kind of have a disadvantage to this because you do have to do everything by sight. As you go later on in the game, you unlock some research. You do actually have a research that will show you all the different nodes and where they are, so it's much easier to find later on in the game. But early game, we just got to go scrolling around the world, see if we can find it, and then try and walk ourselves over there. So I think this little area around here will sort of do, there's a little bit of a strip above some copper, and we've got a lot of the iron, has got a lot of land around it around here. But what I'm thinking is if I ship the iron ore over towards the copper ore, I can run a bit of a basic setup down near the copper, and then if I need to, I've got the landmass near the iron where I can bring stuff back to. So the good thing about this early on is your mech can do quite a bit of stuff. We can do a lot of resource gathering and we can do a lot of the basic construction, so we're able to build a few things up to get us into a position where we are actually able to use real structures to do all the hard work for us. So we'll just set up the mech so that it gets us building some of the stuff that we need in order to get those basic things like a miner and a wind turbine and stuff, just to get us off the ground and get us moving in the right direction. At the same time we're doing this, we do have the ability to have some research going on in the background, so all is not lost. There's a lot of different ways that you can keep moving forward with this game. With our first bit of research finished, we're able to build ourselves a mine, and we've got a wind turbine here. The best thing about wind turbines is the wind turbine will always function at its maximum. As you can see over here, our strength is like 100% for wind, and a wind turbine will always work at that. You don't seem to be able to block them even if you're surrounded by buildings. So it doesn't matter where you place them, there's no like optimal position for a wind turbine. So with our miner mining away, what we want to be doing is unlocking something that's going to be more helpful to us. So we're going to go and we're going to unlock the smelter. This will give us some iron ingots and this kind of stuff, and copper ingots. So it will give us a little bit more of a step in the direction that we want to go. So while we wait for that research to complete for the smelter, we're just throwing ourselves down a little copper miner, and this will help us grab all of the ores, and so we can start to build stuff within the mech until we get that smelting option available, just to kind of get the resources that we need to continue researching, because obviously now we're going to have a smelter running, we're going to need some conveyors, and we're going to need some way of feeding those conveyors. So now that we have the smelter and the conveyor belt research completed, you'll see that I've got 3 smelters down here on the bottom left. I want to run some conveyors over to them to take the ore over to them. What I intend to do here is put the ore going in on the right hand side of the smelter and then going out on the left hand side, so that the left hand side is like a channel where it's going to be like my main conveyor belt system that's just going to go to the assemblers and potentially to some storage, just to get us going with this basic research. So this is where we're at right here. So I've got my ore coming in down one side of the smelters, and then what I want to do is take the ingots out of the other side of the smelter. Reason being, the iron ingot is like one of the most important things in this game. It is used in a lot of recipes. So I want to run this line down here. Also, this will give me the option to take out of the copper miner just below us here. I'll run this through a smelter, and then we can also run copper ingots up next to these iron ingots. So we've got like a second wave of conveyor belts in order to do this. Next, we're back into the research, grab ourselves an assembler. The assembler is where it all starts, really. This is where we're going to start converting our ingots into actual pieces. So realistically, the assembler is kind of the vital thing. So we'll get one of these up and running, and we'll get it starting to pump out those things that we need. Also, while I remember, we need a smelter that's going to start pumping out magnets as well. Magnets are made purely from the iron ore, goes through the smelter into a magnet and pumps out a magnet. Again, this is kind of one of those basic necessary things. Okay, so we'll now set up the iron ore to run through a smelter, so we're going to come out with iron ingots. Now, we don't need too many smelters for the iron ingot, because honestly it looks like we don't really need an awful lot of iron ingots, at least initially anyway. They don't seem to be in many of the sort of starting recipes for much, so we should be alright. We'll just run it through one smelter and then we'll get the assembler set up to do some magnetic coils. So we're going to have to run the 3 lines down so that we can just pull in some of the goodies that we need. So this is where we're going to go put our smelter for our magnets, and then I think I might move an assembly kind of where my mech stood right here, and that way I can pull the magnet and the copper ingot straight into it, and that'll enable us to build those magnetic coils that we need. Then we can ship the magnetic coil all the way down to the end, because that is a resource that I'm pretty sure we need quite a lot of for other recipes later in the game. So we'll be running like the magnetic coil, copper ingot and iron ingots, maybe the full length. We'll just have to see how it works out. I really can't remember an awful lot, but we'll see how it goes and see what the outcome is. So this will be our assembler right here that we'll use to pull in the magnets and pull in the copper ingot, and it'll hopefully pump out some magnetic coil which we can use further on down the line for various other means. So now that we've got enough conveyor belts sorted, I'm going to run my line down here. This is going to be for the magnetic coil. I'm just going to link all this up, so we need it to hurry up and fill in the little conveyor that we've just done. And then we're going to basically ask it to offload onto this conveyor belt. And then we're going to ask it, obviously we need to take that copper ingot in actually, which we haven't done. So we're going to throw the copper in there as well. And this will produce us our magnetic coils, which is going to run pretty much all the way down here, down to the bottom. And looking at this assembler that we've got here, we've got it set up to gears. We're going to change this so it starts to produce the circuit boards. It makes a little bit more sense. And then I feel that we might be able to run the circuit boards and the copper coils into our research plant, which will be the next thing that we research so that we can build it. And then this will help us do the blue cubes that we need in order to actually get research, so we can do it without needing to worry about doing all the materials ourselves. So this is the next piece of research we're after right here. It'll unlock the research center and the blue cubes that we use from kind of here on in to unlock most of the other technologies until we advance further down the tree. But we need those big boys before we can really do too much. But in order to unlock that, we need some magnetic coils and we need some circuit boards, but we can just grab them off the line and out of the assembler, and then basically that'll just crack on and do the research from the mech. And then when that's finished, we'll be able to get a research center, build that up, and hopefully automate the construction of the blue cubes, which will help automate to a degree the research process. So with that research complete, that lets us build the research center thing, which will enable us to build the blue cubes and get on with some research. But in order to do that, I've just got to kind of run out some conveyors from the assembler and decide how we want to run it in. So what I'm going to think of doing is I'm going to run one conveyor here kind of thing, and that's going to be like our magnetic coils. Then we're going to run this one here that will be our chips. And then we'll just transfer all of those into our research center that will make the blue cubes, and then I'll build another research center next to it, and that will do the research. I hope that makes some sort of sense anyway.
Matrix Lab. You can use it to make super matrices or research technologies that require them to unlock. The super matrices are the source code of the center brain for maintaining the homeworld. You can upload as many super matrices to the center brain as possible. You can be benefited to unlock more actual world technologies by operating the homeworld simultaneously.
So that has now got that Matrix Lab up and running. I've extended the conveyors for the chips and for the magnetic cores a little bit further, just in case I want to run them on to somewhere else, so that there's kind of more of an end of a line sort of situation that we can filter out into other assemblers and do all sorts of stuff. But I think we're going to leave it here. It's actually a pretty nice point to stop right now before we get too deep into it. We've got a very basic system set up, enable us to build some of those blue matrix cubes that will help us get some research. We've got a couple of lines of conveyors running, so we're in a good position to take this a little bit further. Anyway guys, I just want to say thank you very much for dropping by. Don't forget to smash that like button. I'll see you next time. Take it easy and bye for now.